Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kelber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
And greetings, Silverliners, and welcome to another wonderful adventure into the world of Wednesday Wham. We've got a full house tonight, it seems. We're joined by Barbara Kailberg, the Empress of the Inks, Rob Davis, also known as the Paragon of Pencils, the Superior Skeptic, Aaron Humphreys, Wizard of Wordplay. Humphreys, indeed, yes.
Humphreys.
The one of the Wizards of Wordplay, Rory Boyle. His colleague Scott Wakefield is absent this evening, but will be back next week. And there's rumor of a possible visit from the word bomber himself, John Medic III. Oh. So you just never know who's going to show up. Before I get started, I want to thank our sponsor, the Daytona Beach Comic Convention, and also one of our biggest supporters, Kablam Printing, for being there for us and making our stuff look great. As always, how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody ready to talk about all this cool stuff?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's do this. Tonight's subject is titled Silverline Strong, and we're going to be discussing why our titles stand out from the standard fare offered by the big two, whether it's that we don't have superheroes per se, as Aaron might say, or whether it's our art style or our writing style or content or a combination of those elements, and why fans might choose and should very well choose a Silverline title over the big two. And maybe later on, if we do have time, we always like to touch on pop culture. Maybe we'll compare Marvel movies and DC movies and see how much ire we can rise up in the room. But let's get started here. I think it's only fair we begin with Barb Kellberg because of the award-winning book that she does, Divinity, and let her give us a little insight into why she thinks Divinity is something that is a little bit above the standard offerings of the big two. Barb, tell us about in terms of a brief description again for some who may not know what the story's about, but then a little more depth into what makes Divinity special, what makes it stand out from the standard fare offered by the big two these days.
Well, Divinity is the story of an 11-year-old girl who loses her parents under mysterious circumstances. Her much older brother, 26-year-old Zachariah, comes home from the Marines to take care of her, and in investigating the death of his father and stepmother, he discovers that it was actually murder. And he begins to wonder why somebody would murder his parents. And along the way, he discovers that his young half-sister has a mysterious healing ability. And it suddenly clicks that people want to get their hands on her. I mean, who wouldn't want to get their hands on her? I can think of dozens of different groups and organizations that would like to get their hands on somebody who can heal. Yeah. So they end up falling into trouble and going on the run. What makes it different from Marvel and DC? Well, she's the only one with powers, for one thing, and usually Marvel and DC, not always. I mean, DC did have a bunch of books that weren't focused on superpowers, but they usually had a very strange twist to them. I think what sets Divinity apart is that I try to keep it as much in the real world as possible, because, I mean, let's face it, the real world is scary enough as it is. We've got plenty of villains of our own without having super villains. I try to keep it relatable to the common man or woman, and I throw a bit of a soap opera in it. So I think it falls more along the lines of, say, a procedural on TV. You get to know the characters. They have personal lives, but you always have some action going on every episode, right? Say 911, the 911 franchise. You've got the personal backgrounds of the characters going on and their own trials and tribulation. But every episode, you've got excitement and drama and danger and stuff. And that's kind of the reason, the thinking that I was going with when I developed Divinity, is I wanted to have more of a procedural type of feel to it. Which is definitely, I think, not something that DC and Marvel follow very well. I mean, they do to a certain extent, the issue to issue to issue, but it seems like they're always trying to outdo. Every issue has to be more dramatic than the last, and they're running out of ideas. I mean,
is it fair?
How many times can we blow up the world?
Yeah, I was going to say, is it fair to say that two of the elements outside of what you've already described, the first would be the world doesn't necessarily hang in the balance in your story. And the second is there seems to be a strong representation of family bond and family risk. Yeah. And that's not always, I'm not going to, make a sweeping statement and broad statement and say that Marvel and DC doesn't do that, because they do. But it just seems that this particular title, Divinity, focuses a lot on the family dynamic, and that gives it a warmth. Is that fair to say? I think so.
I do think that, we do have a lack. I think the closest independent comic I could come to that focus hugely on relationships was Strangers in Paradise. That one was
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
focused on relationships.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
found it fascinating. It was kind of a benchmark for me that I like to follow. It was soap opera, but there was always an element of danger. There was this criminal organization in it that always gave it a dangerous flair, and that was very appealing to me.
Yeah. Well, it does have your immediate empathy with the main character, but also with Zach, and also with the connection of a family on the run, and they're highly outgunned and outnumbered by a nefarious group. And so you're immediately on their side. You understand the risk very quickly. There's not a lot of complexity and layered intrigue at the beginning to confuse you. It's like it's straight up. She's sought after by bad guys. They're willing to kill anybody around her. They're on the run. This is really dangerous. Are they going to make it?
And I also kind of throw in the concept of found family in it as well, because we bring Olivia in, and she's not related, but she kind of takes over a motherly role for Divinity, and a older sister role probably, but she's also becomes enmeshed in this, and they kind of form their own nucleus. So it makes you feel like you can be included. It doesn't just focus on blood relationship.
Right. And it also doesn't just focus on what I like to call fireworks. It's not just a fireworks show. There's depth to the characters. For the mechanical side of things, what about the creative team? Has there been some changes, and are you excited about them?
Alex has my amazing penciler. I just can't say enough good things about him. He will be stepping away after issue 3. We're halfway through it. To focus on his professional life. And I will be bringing on a new team, and I'm not prepared to tell you who that is at the moment.
Okay.
But they have they've been around for a very long time.
This is intriguing.
Yeah.
Nice tease. Nice tease. I like it.
The only tease I will give you is that they've mainly worked for Archie.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's even better. So one last thing before we move on. If there are fans who are reading similar books from other publishers, if you were to compare it to anything that's out there that might be familiar to people, like if you like this, you'll like Divinity. Do you have anything to compare it to?
I haven't read a lot of outside books lately, so I might need some help on this.
Okay. Maybe fans will chime in on that. So that'd be interesting. So, okay, let's move on to Aaron, the superior skeptic. Talk to us, man.
The superior skeptic. About what book do you want me to talk about?
Well, I know that because of your prolific nature of creating, you just do so many books. But let's talk about whichever one you think you want to promote right now. What are you most excited about? And tell us why it stands out from the standard offerings of the big two, and why people should check it out.
Well, I guess my Goblins would be the one that I'm actually working on the last cover right now.
I'm about 3/4 of the way through that, by the way.
What?
On Webtoons. I said I'm about 3/4 of the way through reading that on Webtoons, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
I am enjoying it.
It's all done. So,
cool.
What sets it apart was, well, one, I talked pretty heavily about philosophy in some of it. So my minor was philosophy in college. So I hope I break it down. I had enough people respond to some of the philosophical portions in the book that I didn't confuse them. So I'm like, okay. So
there's a heavy emphasis on free will.
Free will, yes, that's my favorite argument. Free will versus determinism. That's the main argument in the book. Yes, and she picked that up. That's correct. So as far as what sets it apart is it's fantasy. It's fantasy and sci-fi, which I would say Marvel and DC do sci-fi, but rarely do they do fantasy. Rarely. It's a kind of a mix, like the Final Fantasy games, if you ever played those, are very much fantasy and sci-fi mixed. Mine's like that to a degree. It's a character study. The main character, Boomer. There's a lot of themes running through the book, and the more I write it, the more I just kind of dump all the themes together.
Dump them in the mixer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the main theme that came out besides the philosophy was the theme of loss and coming to terms with that, which is something I've dealt with in my life. So that's where that comes from. So I think the fact that it's more of a character study is a little different than the Marvel DC. My main character is not a hero per se. They're not heroes. That's not the point. So there is.
They're also not human. They're not human.
No. I completely and I think I left the human side. I don't like to tell stories about Earth and humans that much because I just like to draw weird stuff and I feel it limits me. Also,
you know what it reminds me of a little bit? I just want to interject here, Aaron. This is certainly a compliment because we're going to touch on this creator in a future pop culture discussion. But your designs, your characters a lot, they're very much alive, and they remind me of Ralph Bakshi's characters a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
The guy who
Are
did
you familiar with that?
Ralph Bakshi. I know Chris Botchler, Ralph Bakshi. Was he the guy who did Pogo?
No, Ralph Bakshi did the animated Lord of the Rings, but before that, he did a movie called Wizards. You should check out the art
have that
for
on
Wizards.
VHS somewhere.
You should watch clips of it on YouTube because the caricature of your characters and the sort of the reality of the world that's completely unreal, if that makes sense, is there in your storytelling as well. It's like it's completely disconnected from our reality, and yet it doesn't take very long for the reader to be immersed, and you're in their world, and boom, you're with them, and you're going. And it does remind me of Bakshi's world.
Bakshi's. It's funny. I've never seen. I think bits and pieces of Wizards. My favorite of his is Fire and Ice, and that was That was one I watched the most. And then I didn't mind Cool World, but Ralph Bakshi.
Your caricature.
Wizards. Yeah, I liked it. The thing, the funny thing is, I think somebody gave me a DVD of Wizards. I still have, and I don't think I ever watched it, so I just pop it in. It's been sitting on my shelf.
You should.
I should just pop it. I'm horrible. I bought Battle Angel Alita on Blu-ray when it came. I've never watched it on Blu-ray. I'm horrible. I'll buy stuff on Blu-ray and just never watch it. I don't know why I'm buying it. I don't know.
It'll strike you one night. You'll be like,
one night. I forgot I bought this. I did the same thing with Blade Runner 2099. I saw them both in theaters. Bought it on Blu-ray. You're gonna watch this? Haven't watched it yet. Haven't just said there. Okay.
It's just one of those things. So depth of subject, depth of content, unique caricature of the visuals. And an immersive world. What would you say if someone was curious about it and they were fans of fill in the blank?
This and this. I think, strangely enough, there's two. One, I almost kind of think Bone in a way.
Okay.
A little bit of the caricature and stuff in the fantasy.
I can see that. Yeah.
A little bit. If they like certain types of stories, like again, Neon Genesis Evangelion might be a little bit. I got a lot of inspiration from that series. My friend watched that series, and after he watched, I think he watched all of it. He's like, "Yeah, okay, I see the influence on your book," but it's very subtle. It doesn't look the same, but there's a lot of kind of themes and stuff I talk about a little bit between the two. Those would be the two. Yeah, I just draw characters that look unreal. I think the reason I stay out of the human drawing stuff about human beings is I just want to stay out of politics. I know that sounds stupid, but I want to be able to explore politics and other ideas without connecting them to human ideas, like Star Trek or Star Wars will explore.
Yeah, I understand.
But not tie them to real world and stuff. So
you want to do the bigger issues rather than the nitty gritty that we're dealing with on a day.
Yeah,
right.
You
Like
talk
more
about
macro.
the bigger issues. Yeah. Okay,
more macro
that makes sense.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
Cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
Draw aliens, and I just think they look cool. I don't know. I mean,
they do look cool.
been amazed that so many people, when they draw comics, kind of draw this. I mean, the influencers draw the same thing, but even my friend is like, he draws biospec, which is speculative biology, basically aliens, but bases on actual biological evolution and stuff. And he draws all sorts of interesting stuff. And we're always amazed that you literally have a blank piece of paper and you can draw anything you want, and you get like the same green alien or the same hero. I mean, it's just like I'm always like, you know, you can draw. I mean, because if you want to see imagination, go hang out at a kid's classroom.
Yeah,
a kid's classroom. Oh my,
some of
that imagination is like.
Wow.
It's just like, I quit, man. And some of that stuff's hilarious. I mean, I just...
So, okay.
My wife's an art teacher,
You see a lot of good creative stuff.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, we've talked about this before, too, and of all the creators in the room, really, you're the closest to, like, Todd McFarlane's philosophy when he started Spawn, which was, if it looks cool, do it. Yeah. And I really like that freedom, that complete creative freedom of, you're not calculating anything when you design these characters. You're literally or I assume this.
Yeah.
You're literally thinking, if this looks cool, I'm going to use it. Is that fair?
That's pretty much. And the new series I have planned, which would be much, much shorter, 3 or 4 issues. That character is going to be a trip. He is. I'll explain the character. You guys can steal him or whatever. He's a small boy. I would say 15 or 16. He is missing his arms from down. They get torn off in the story. He replaces them with these basically hooks on chains, almost like Hellraiser.
I was hoping you weren't going to say scissors.
Wow.
No
scissors.
And so there's and then it's kind of like he kind of goes on a quest to save somebody. But I've always liked to draw characters that could have power, but there's a disability. This is what I always like so much in the X-Men, like Rogue, because like Superman, but you can't touch anyone. I always loved that idea, that dichotomy. So I was like, well, what if this guy really can't? I mean, he can function. He's got people have prosthetic hooks and stuff all the time. But what if this kid had? I mean, if you had hooks on chains, you could tear the crap out of somebody. I mean, you could do some damage, but you may not be able to sew. Yeah, you may not be able to sew. It's a kind of, So, and I'm drawing a little bit of horror stuff or whatever, Halloween horror stuff. So it's percolating. I basically have the story in my mind, but this is a balls to the wall action story. So totally different than what I did.
Very cool.
And
very cool.
I want to do the art myself because I want to attempt to color it the way I usually, not so much like the shadows and light. So I'm going to go my full coloring route, which means it's going to take longer. That's why it's shorter.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay. And no title for the story yet, but thinking. But that and another character. When you say I do what's cool, I don't know. I draw all sorts of weird. I like asymmetrical stuff. I like very weird character designs. I always think those are fun.
That's very, very nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so as we close out of this particular part of the show, what about, where can people find it? Tell us, promote it. Webtoons.
You can find it on Webtoons right now. I'm posting it there. You can find all the issues up to 10 on my store, which I think it may be. It's Humphrey's Illustration at BigCartel.com. Okay. They do that. I think that's what it is, and I'll have the last 2 issues in there soon when I get them printed, and then I got to put it together in the book. I eventually will have it in some local comic shops around here, I hope. So I'll announce that when it's ready. But the best way is to order it from me. The one thing about the individual issues, I'm not reprinting the covers ever. So if you like the covers, get them on the individual issues, because once they're gone, they're gone. I'm not reprinting them.
Oh, nice. So, good pitch. Yeah. Good pitch, everybody. Godlings by the superior skeptic, Aaron Humphreys. You are the superior skeptic. It's a good. Hey, we've all got titles, right? I'm sure I've got a lot that I wouldn't want to share. So speaking of titles that we don't want to share, hey, it's the mad word bomber right there. There he is, the benevolent overlord himself.
Hey everybody, what's up?
How are you, John?
I'm ecstatic to be alive. I get off of work at 4:30. That means I get out of there by like 6:10 in reality. McDonald's drive-through, feed the kid, feed me, get on camera. Can you believe no CO2? No.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, they're like, you want juice? I'm like, no. Do you want no? Do you want no? I want something carbonated. Thank you. Can we get these supply chains moving again? It's been 2 years.
Can we please? Really.
But
I hear you. I hear you. Well, as you may or may not know, I don't know if I briefed you behind the scenes, but we are talking about Silverline titles. What makes them stand out from the typical offerings of the big two?
Oh, you mean they're much cooler in every single way?
Yes. And since you just joined us, I'll just pick on you and say, tell us about Sniper and Rook. Tell us why people should choose Sniper and Rook over some sort of attempted equivalent from the big two. Go.
Okay, cool. What I think the reason that I'd say choose Sniper and Rook for me over some sort of action spy thing from, a Marvel or a DC is, one, you're supporting like a quote unquote local creator. Even if I'm not local to you, you're not supporting a corporation that's just going to exploit a property, turn it into movies, make money off of it, and leave the people who actually create the stuff in a lurch and not really benefiting from it at all. Nice. The other thing is I'm not writing for anybody but myself and my fans. So, the stories I want to tell, I'm not going to have an editor saying, I don't like that direction. I want you to do this. And, this is the catchword of these days, or this is, the new thing in society that we have to be all about.
Right.
I want to make it look more like XXX. Yeah. XYZ or whoever.
I was like, you mean like that, the movie with, who did that? Who did Triple X? Was that Vin Diesel?
Oh, was that Ice Cube?
He was in the second one. At first, I thought.
I was thinking more along the lines of. I used to have editors like say, "Can you ink it to look like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes, got it. So why else Sniper and Rook? Because the characters get to be who they truly are. And of course, they're all fictional characters. We learned about those in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. Fictional characters.
Yes.
But they're my fictional characters. And when you read Sniper and Rook, it will be consistent. It's not going to be one writer writing it for 3 months, then off to another job, and then somebody else picks it up, and then they retcon some stuff, and you're like, what the hell is this? Like Gwen Stacy and what they did with her and the Goblin. That's what made me stop reading from the big two. When they had it that Gwen and the Goblin were like knocking boots, I'm like, no way, I'm done. And that's what turned me off from the big two.
Did I hear retcon or was it retcon?
Retcon. But I like yours better.
But I like
really do because it kind of wrecked everything. Yes.
I like retcon too.
This was one time when the old man with his hearing losing his hearing actually heard something cool.
So no, I think
retcon. I love that.
Because we really get to put our heart into it. And especially when I was self-publishing, and I'm paying everything from, anybody who might get a page rate or partial page rate, or if they were doing it for exposure, at the end of the day, I was paying the printing costs, and that came out of my household fund. Okay. So that came out of my teaching salary. So I was not going to put crap out there because this is my money that I'm spending. Some people smoke their money away. Some people drink their money away. Some people gamble it. I print comic books. Okay.
There you go.
Not a bad vice. But I'm going to make sure that's a quality product that I would want to read. I'm not just going to hack something out for a paycheck like some people do. Not everybody. There's some great talent that works for the big two, but it seems like some of the stuff that I read, and I still pick up a book here or two and look at it on the shelf and put it back down and say, yeah, that's why I quit. A lot of the stuff is, I find it lacking. So
yeah, I would agree. Now, what would you, if you were pitching the book to someone at a con and they were saying, well, what is it like? How would you answer?
So that's a great question, because when Roland and I were on one of the talks during the Kickstarter, I used something I do at shows, and it's a little bit dated now, kind of shows my age. And Roland's like, oh, wow, and asked the folks that were on there, do you usually compare it to other media properties? So the way that I say, Sniper and Rook, covert action, covert operative. So if you like anything from James Bond to the X-Files, to TV's Burn Notice or Chuck back in the day, like a Heart to Heart, and Moonlighting, my Ace
okay.
friends here. To just a couple of years ago, lasted one season. One of my favorite shows of all time, Whiskey Cavalier, which had the young lady from Walking Dead. Well, Maggie when she left for a season, then came back. And if you liked any of those properties, you will find yourself right at home with Sniper and Rook.
Fantastic pitch. And where can folks get Sniper and Rook right now?
Right now, up on Indie Planet, we have the Silverline edition of #1. We will be adding the graphic novels 1 and 2. The Sniper and Rook Collection 1 has the first story arc, which is the first 5 issues. Collection 2, which I just uploaded to Kablam today for Indie Planet, has, and it doesn't sound like much, it has a short story from issue 7, has issue 8, 9, and 11. Okay. But one of the other things that our head honcho is always calling me out on is I like to write 32-page issues, 40-page issues. So issue 8 is 30 or 32 pages. Issue 9 was 40 pages, and another 32 for issue 11. So we're talking 116 interior pages over 3 issues plus a 10-page short story that was originally in issue 7.
Your artists love you, John. Your
some
artists
of them
love
do.
You.
Some of them defended me on Facebook, and I found that out a year later. I'm like, oh, I'm sad about that. But but no, it's really cool, and I love working with different artists all the time and matching artists. And that's the other thing that I think I do intentionally. And if we're going to talk about, why some of the stuff with indies might be better than the big two, is we publish when it's done, and we say it's done. And if, so Barb was saying that she would be told by an editor, match so-and-so style. Well, when I have an artist that I want to work with and I know what his or her style looks like, I'll try to write a Sniper and Rook story that matches their style. So it's a synergy of what their strengths are. I'll write to that, and it makes for a stronger product that way. Not just an editor saying, I need somebody to kick out 20 pages. Oh, and that's it. Also, because they do 20-page books these days. I give you 40. I give you 40 pages.
Value
bargain
for their buck.
Bargain.
Yeah.
$2.95.
So that would be part of it too. It's intentional. Everything that I do is intentional for long-term entertainment value. My son is 16. I love him to pieces, but I still say Sniper and Rook really are my first kids. And that's the way I treat them,
Oh, I thought you were going to say he has an extension span of a gnat.
No. He has a better attention span than I do these days, by far.
That's a nice pitch. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. We're going to move on to Rob Davis. Known for his time with Star Trek, probably to most folks. But tell us what you have worked on for Silverline, what you are working on, your favorite project, and why it stands out exceptionally so from the normal offerings from the big two.
So you want me to talk about Twilight Grim, but you also want me to talk about my favorite project, which isn't necessarily Twilight Grim.
Correct.
Even though up until I finished it, it was my favorite project at that point. Obviously, or I wouldn't have been working on it.
Right.
What's Twilight Grim is about essentially a vampire hunter. He doesn't necessarily hunt them, but he protects the humans from the vampires. And what's happened is this large city. It's not established where it is or when it is. But I see it as sometime in the not too distant future, where vampires truly exist, and there was a battle between the vampires and the humans, and they split the town in half after the battle was over, because it came essentially to a draw. So they put a big wall between the two cities, and we start off the story by what happens is if you break the law on the human side. They kick your butt out of the human side, and you have to go make your way on the vampire side. So there are vampires and human beings on both sides of the wall. So the ones on the vampire side, of course, are in in a dystopian world. Essentially, it's a post-apocalyptic. Whereas the other side is like the Emerald City of Oz. It's spectacular, glows in the dark, and all that good stuff. So anyway, the character Twilight Grimm is a human character who protects the weak and the defenseless on the vampire side of the wall. And as the story develops, we find out that the vampires are trying to figure out how to essentially start the war up again and win it against the human beings. And by the end of it, we also find that the human beings are kind of doing the same thing. And the travel to that is the interesting thing. And we get little hints about Twilight Grimm himself. Why is he doing this? What motivates him? He seems to almost have a superhuman ability, but he's just a plain human being. But and he lives up to his name. He is Grimm at all times. So what's different about this book from what's from the big two is a lot of what I just told you is not told from that point of view, or doesn't have that kind of themes behind it. And what I like about Silverline is that we're getting back to comics that are fun again.
Yes.
I think that's the basis for everything that we do. It's not, none of us is getting rich. We're not doing this to like we said earlier, to create a TV show or a movie or what. It'd be nice if we did, but that's not our reason, raison d'etre, or how it's pronounced.
We don't have any corporate overlords who are saying, how profitable would this be? Can we do market research?
I didn't do this for the money. I unfortunately, like some of the others here, I'm retired. I have a retirement income. I'm doing this for fun now.
Me too.
The whole thing is just for the enjoyment of doing it. So, and I think that's the big thing about Silverline.
Yeah,
now,
it really is. I agree.
Okay. Now, and my favorite project is the one. It's just the one I'm working on now, or the one I have started. Boston Bombers with Ron Fortier, and we're going to self-publish that one. But it's my collaboration with him previously on a graphic novel was a book called Daughter of Dracula, where the Dracula's daughter meets and falls in love with the Red Baron of World War One, and this story is about their torrid love affair. And
that sounds awesome.
It is. I have one fan who I think probably is even watching us right now, calls it my masterpiece, because it was done in black and white, and I used gray tones, and what I tried to do was make it look like an old black and white Hammer film from the 50s and early 60s. I wanted it to have that feel to it. So, and it was a project, 108 pages. And at the time, I was still working full time, so I could only do like a couple of pages a week, if that. So it took almost 2 years to complete. But it was such an intriguing and interesting project that it was a blast to do it, and that kind of got me jump started to do all this stuff again. So when I got the chance to retire and actually do this kind of stuff every day, I jumped at the chance. So the Boston Bombers is an extension of a series that Ron did back in the 90s for Caliber, and it's an alternate world in which Jesus was a woman, and the Pope, the whole Catholic Church is run by women, and the protagonists of the story are essentially Doc Savage if he were a woman. And his crew they're all women as well. So and World War II never happened. So we still have airships, we still have prop planes, no jets, nothing of that. It's set in the original book was set in the 1980s or 90s, So, and we're still going to be set in that same time period. So, I'm looking. I've got one page done so far, and I've gotten a lot of stuff gotten in the way, and I haven't been able to do more of it. But that's my favorite project at the moment.
That's exciting. It all sounds good.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Tell the fans where they can get a hold of these items, the completed ones, and then where they'll be able to get the newer ones.
Well, the completed ones obviously are we've got issue 4 of Twilight Grim should be coming up for Kickstarter, sometime in the next month or two.
Okay.
And at that time, when you pledge for that 4th issue, you can also go back and add on the previous issues. Or if you just want to start sampling Twilight Grim, you can go to Kablam's indieplanet.com, type in Twilight Grim, and the first 3 issues should be available through them.
Awesome.
So now Daughter of Dracula is available on Amazon. It's also available from indieplanet.com, or it's available for Ron or me at comic book conventions, as will the other books be once we start going back to those again. And then Boston Bombers is probably going to be the same way. It'll probably be available at both Amazon and at Indie Planet. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to do it as a series of issues, and then we'll collect it into a graphic novel.
That sounds great. It sounds great. Fruitbat 36 says,
a lot of fun.
Not get rich with Silverline. Speak for yourself, says. So, you never know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah,
but he said something
it would
that
be even more fun if we made a lot of money. What the
heck? Yeah. He said something that resonated with me, and that I am also retired. So I don't do this because I need to make money. I do it for the love of the game. And my penciler, Alex, asked me, he says, if you could go back right now to DC and Marvel, would you? And I said, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said yes. But I like setting my own deadlines and working on something that is mine and that I can put my heart and soul into. And even though I loved working for DC and Marvel, I was known for making deadlines, and so that I would always get stuck with the stuff that needed to be caught up. So I was always under the gun, and I worked well under the gun, but it is exhausting. You know, and I'm really just enjoying myself. This is so much fun for me.
Yeah, and you can sleep late if you want to.
I'm looking forward to this retirement thing y'all keep talking about. I'm gonna so I got a little bit to go.
If you're doing comics as you're living now, forget it.
Nah, I'm in education. I love what Eric said down there about Silverline books are fun. I forget who said it, that we're not doing this to try to flip the intellectual property to a movie. No. However, I will say Sniper and Rook issue 1 through 5 for story arc would be perfect for a movie. And
just in case anybody's out there listening.
Mr. Matt Lanter, awesome actor, voice actor for Anakin Skywalker, was in Timeless, one of my favorite TV shows. I'd love for you to be Sniper. Look back on one of our old Wednesday Whams. You were the one that I picked in our Hollywood cast. Adrian Palicki. Oh my God, I love you. I want you to be Rook. If you two could get together, get Hollywood to take us, and make a Sniper and Rook movie, it would be fantastic. It would be the pinnacle of your careers, at least for me.
Elevator pitch by John Maddox III, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Wubba Fett chimes in and says, hello all. Hey, Wubba. How's it going, man? Glad you're watching. Eric Flint, Indie Planet just sent me Boston Bombers today. So check this out, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
Fruitbat 36 says coloring Wolf Hunter right now. So, yeah, this is, who knows? You might get rich with Silverline when Wolf Hunter's picked up as a series. You just never know
where lightning is going to strike. I mean,
that's true.
I have so many friends who, some of them just lightning struck right away. Some of them's toiled away in the industry for 30 years, and all of a sudden, bazinga, they're on TV. It's you just never know when that property's going to hit. Look at Derek Robertson in The Boys.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember falling in love with his art when he took over New Warriors. And then, you know, he moved on and did bigger things. And actually now, since we're talking about lightning hitting, there is an actor out there named Chad Rook. He's been in a bunch of different properties. Awesome actor, nice Canadian, and I love Canada. We know that. I worked with a woman at one of the schools. She was in student services. She met him at a convention, became friends, and he was making his own film. And one of the guys was a big comic book fan. And he didn't want to have to deal with Marvel and DC and try to get rights for stuff for posters in the background. Reached out to indie people. So she sent me his contact. And there is actually a movie out there where you will see Sniper and Rook as posters.
Very nice.
Box.
Cool.
You know, all on one wall. I mean, so like they pop up throughout the movie, which is really, really cool. So it's called The Perfect Pickup. Bunch of loser guys who can't pick up women. I personally can identify. Until, you know, Amy. So, yay, she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a fun film, and it's kind of nice to see my kids on screen, you know, even if it's just in poster form for now. You never know when something's going to hit.
Yeah,
you just never know.
I get the biggest kick out of Derek because I used to be one of his inkers. And then I see him walking the red carpet and like, that is so awesome.
Right. I know, isn't that weird? It was kind of odd. Guy. Yeah, it is. Let's move on to one of the Wizards of Wordplay from our esteemed title, Steam Patriots. Rory Boyle, my friend, talk to us a little bit about how Steam Patriots is going, why people should pick it up, how it stands out from Marvel and DC fare, and anything else you want to add about Steam Patriots. Go for it.
Well, things are going great. We working with the artist. We've got about half of the roughs in for the next issue, and the next half are coming very shortly. Then we'll be able to fine tune it a bit. Steam Patriots, I think, stands out because it's uniquely American. When so many comics, especially in the big two, have gotten away from America as the setting, now it's just like assumed that it all takes place in America. But when you used to have, you know, the original Superman was the American way. Additionally, while there's always like one or two steampunk things that come out a year, you know, it's still a very niche genre,
right?
So it's a slow roll if you're a steampunk fan. So we hope to kind of.
Can I give you a little nugget of advice?
Oh yes, please.
Take your books to Dragon Con.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Dragon Con.
Oh yeah, that's good advice.
Steampunk. Will go.
Where's that one
huge
held at?
There.
It's in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a big show.
I'm surprised you don't know about that one. It's a huge convention.
Yeah, well, Rory's fairly new to the biz as far as a comic book creator, and so learning the landscape of cons is like walking through a minefield.
Well,
you got to figure out what to go to.
It's also big with sci-fi and fantasy, though.
Right.
You know,
Steampunk would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, it would.
Good
It
to know.
definitely would. You need to go.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Make
might
that
even be
happen.
able to talk them into letting you have a table. So
That would be incredible.
you talk.
But only if
talk 'em
Dean's
up.
my table mate.
Oh yeah,
There you
man,
go.
we'll do it. Let's make it a journey. So tell us a little bit about some of the historical connections within Steam Patriots.
Oh man, so apart from staying as true to history as is possible, as the more research we did, the more weird stuff we found. When because it's going to be like a low sci-fi kind of atmosphere, low tech. We're building the birth of steampunk because it's always, you know, Victorian England. We're taking it back further, and all of these contraptions we're using were based on or very nearly close to real things. Like you always when you think of like a Gatling gun, you think of the Civil War. There was the patent for the Gatling gun was in the 1770s. They were just too expensive to manufacture. So the technology existed, it just wasn't in wide use. So we're just kind of helping that along a little. Or
Nice.
there's an electric contraption called a Holden jar or something like that, but it harnessed electricity in the air. So these ideas were floating around back then. So if as far-fetched as it might seem in a moment, it is still grounded in historical fact.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and is it fair to say, Rory, that your expertise, being a military veteran, you add a little bit of authenticity and dare I say gravitas to some of the military storytelling a little bit, because you and Scott both are vets. Am I correct?
we were stationed together, and that's where when we should have been working, we were probably coming up with this idea. And if it was true to military fashion, there wouldn't be enough page space for all the complaining going on.
Right.
And there would be a lot of expletives on there. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of yeah. So where can people find Steam Patriots 1? I know
yes, you can find us on Indie Planet.
And
I don't have the metrics, but I know more than a handful have sold.
Yes.
Actually,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I bumped into my film and literature professor on campus earlier this week, and he shouted me down. He goes, "Hey, I read Steam Patriots. I loved it, and I'm changing my course. It's no longer film and literature. It is now film and visual medium, because he wanted to incorporate comics and graphic novels, and he'll be highlighting."
Yes.
You've reeled in another one. All right.
That's awesome.
Now I got to convince him to make his students buy it for every semester.
That's it. Put it on the list.
This is a textbook.
Right? Yeah, it's a textbook now. Part of the syllabus. Well, that's more motivation for you guys to get 2, 3, and 4 done, so it can be collected.
We are motivated. And a little teaser. We're scooting along just fine with that, but I'm also turning my attention to some world building too. So there'll be more than 2 and 3 coming out.
Oh, good. Very good. Good to hear. Okay, so that brings it to me, your host. Aside from hosting this, I also write and illustrate for Silverline. I'm currently working on Silver Blade, which quickly can be described as set again in the steampunk era of Victorian London, with 2 secret societies at war, an order of noble knights and a cult of human traffickers, really bad guys. And what happens is a young, beautiful archaeologist and a former U.S. cavalryman meet and discover this order and become swept up into the battle to save the kids and also to unravel and destroy this cult. And much like Aaron, our superior skeptic, I also am a big fan of philosophy and deeper messages while the fireworks are going on. I kind of like having 2-tiered simultaneous entertainment going on, the more cerebral along with the fireworks show. So along with lots of sword fights and shootouts and fist fights and monsters, you're also going to be challenged a little bit. In fact, even from the first page, one of the pieces of dialogue proposes the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Ooh. And if God is so good, why is there so much evil in the world? Okay, so I'm gonna get into I'm gonna get into some deeper stuff. Some deeper stuff just to sort of challenge the reader a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say I've got all the answers, but I'm going to say I like to propose the questions to get people thinking and to grow the characters as they discover things along the way.
Those are the big ones. Those are the big questions.
And I want to have fun with it at the same time, and not get too serious and keep it more along the lines of the PG-13 Star Wars tone, which is basically what we all do, where there's epic good and evil, and then there's internal struggles between the characters themselves. As a bonus, I'm going to address a pop culture and genre question that a lot of people have had. I know I've had it my whole life. Why does silver defeat evil creatures? There's all sorts of different, generic explanations, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper and actually, in the book, answer the question in a way that I don't think it's ever been addressed before, hence the name of the book, Silver Blade. So people are going to find out why silver repels, kills things like vampires, werewolves, and other monsters, and what the reasoning is behind that. So I'm tackling a lot of different things, mainly because I just think it's cool. And I hope other people have as much fun with it, reading it, as I have creating it. So, and if any of you guys have any questions about it, throw some at me. I don't want to just ramble.
Why does Silver defeat all of them?
Well, you'll have to wait till issue 4 to find that out.
Why do you find out?
Spoiled again.
True believers. Tune in next week. Yeah, really. But I want to reiterate, some of you guys have touched on the fact that why Silverline shines and stands above the big two. And really, Barb put it so poignantly when she said, I've been asked, would you work for Marvel and DC if you were asked? And again, much like Barb's answer, a few years ago, I probably would have said yes. Now, no, because I really love the freedom and not having corporate/editorial overlords controlling the content. And quite frankly, we can do better. We can. There was a time when those companies are putting out stuff. Oh, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. And this is so cool. And that's so cool. And for some reason, over the last 5 years, maybe 7 years, it's just lost the appeal for me. Not that they're all terrible or anything, just to my taste, it's just not as compelling as what you guys are doing for Silverline. And I want everybody to share in that excitement. We want to be that fun publisher that people can go for a respite from the heavy reality-based messaging or just the things that we've seen a million times, and we want to see something a little bit different.
The crisis of the week, the industry-wide, the company-wide crossover that has to happen every year. Do we have to do that? Silverline's not. I hope Silver. Well, maybe.
Well, I'm kind of working on one, Rob. I've been working on one for a little while now with some of what I call the Silverline Central characters. Some of them from the '90s. I've been working on it for a while.
Well,
I don't want to tell you how long, but you know what? It's not a yearly thing, and it's not like it was a project that I started before Roland even launched Silverline 3.0, where I kind of said, hey, please, 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 take a look at the characters I love, please, 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 please. And he's like, okay.
If it's a one-off, well planned, and it's not just a money grab, it could be really interesting.
You have no
especially
idea
given some of the characters that are in Silverline. The interplay might be really, really interesting. So
and Sniper and Rook are in there, so that's what was tying it all together. In my mind, because I was a Silverline 1.0 fan. When I created Sniper and Rook, they were always, in my mind, inhabiting the same universe as the original Cat and Mouse and Demon and Champion and Tempest and Silver Dollar. And Tempest and Silver Dollar I finally got to write for the Christmas special that we had in Kickstarter. So it's like I wrote them a while ago, hasn't seen print, for the crossover. And it's going to set some stuff up that the original Silverline 1.0 people planned on doing back in 1988 that never materialized. But yeah, everything is such a deep cut in my mind because Roland says, oh, John, when did this happen? And I'm like, oh, that book, that page, that panel, it's all up here. Can't remember where I put my shoes in the morning, but I've got the important stuff up here. And, so everything is so in continuity and it ties back and it's all properly created. And it's not in kind of going back to the Marvel and DC, what I've seen, over the last 20, 30 years, you get a new writer who comes on and they kind of just discard what happened before. Like, I want to tell my Spider-Man story. Yep. Heck be darn what was done before, and I'm going to change that, and, I want to do my Batman, and, and
Mephisto wipes the slate clean.
And like I mentioned earlier, they have to keep coming up with more bizarre and outlandish stories to top the previous one. Right. And they're getting to the point now where, I can't think where they're going to go next. I've been following the Avengers story. and it's impossible foes that can destroy the entire universe. And it's 5 guys are going to save, the entire...
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like, can we talk about the new Spider-Man movie yet, or is that still like under a spoiler alert? No, it should be.
Oh, we can talk. We can talk about it.
I haven't seen it, but you can talk about it.
So
I have no problem with it.
With the comics, they have to keep upping it. What's the bigger threat to some point where you're like, okay, now what? Probably my favorite part of that movie, and there are lots of part of that movie I loved. There were parts I liked, but the very ending, where they did the exact opposite of what Barb said, which was, I think, the best thing they could have done, is they returned him to, quote unquote, the real Spider-Man with a spandex suit that he made at home on his own. He's no more like Iron Man Jr. And what we see in a way at the end is more akin to the Spider-Man that we all grew up knowing and loving.
Yeah,
that was a rare time that they didn't go crazy like Barb said. They went the opposite direction, and it was so refreshing to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm noticing as well.
Hit the reset button.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and what's so wonderful about stories that are about characters and personal struggles, that is stronger in many ways, because how many times can the world hang in the balance and it be watchable and believable? I mean, come on. They even did it with the most, you're all going to say it, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll with this. You had to bring up James Bond, right? You knew it, right? But the latest Bond movie, even the latest Bond movie went personal, turned it into a family story, turned it into, his risk was not just saving the world. It was a personal risk. It was a personal thing. Mm-hmm. So it's a big lesson that you can only beat a dead horse so long before it gets just boring, guys. Let's go back to what makes
it doesn't look like a horse
individuals.
This is the pit that Supernatural fell into. I watched 15 seasons of Supernatural, and it started out with Monster of the Week stories, which were fun and hilarious, and they could have gone on forever with those, because there's so many myths and legends throughout the entire world that they could have tapped on. But they started the storyline where they had to overcome the devil, and then it
more
was
mythology type at that point, as opposed to Monster of the Week,
right? And then it was in the entirety of hell, and then it was the entirety of heaven, and they kept building these. Every storyline had to be bigger than the last, so that by the time you get to season 15, they are having to take out God. Why didn't they?
He's had a good long run.
Why didn't they back off on some of that? Wrap up, one of the major storylines.
X-Files went the same way. It seems to be that they started out kind of the Monster of the Week type of thing, and then he started getting into the UFO bit, and just. They went down a rabbit hole way too far.
And that's what Supernatural did. Every big bad was bigger and badder than the last one until they basically came to an end. I mean, they couldn't go any farther.
One of these years I'm going to binge. I've not watched any of the Supernatural. Jensen Ackles is the reason I have not watched it.
Because watch it for Jared Padalecki.
He's a great actor. They both are. Don't get me wrong. He's such a great actor that when he was in Smallville, and he played a jerk character, I hated that character so much, I didn't want to watch the actor, because I'm like, ooh, I don't like you. Yeah.
Both mains, Jared and Jensen, have an insane chemistry.
That's so cool.
They do.
They just knock it out of the park. It's basically Jared's story, but if you can have a second protagonist, then Jensen is the second protagonist on that.
Very nice.
What I think that would have extended that series a lot longer, and maybe made it more pleasing to the initial fans, because I checked out after season 5 because of where it was going. I could see where it was going, and I think the original creator had sold it off for lots and lots of money, and so a new creative team, a new show leader, comes in and showrunner, excuse me, and takes it, you know, the locomotive somewhere else. And it's like, okay, I get what you guys are doing, escalating with everything, but you lost a lot of your original fans. Imagine if they had spent that money instead of escalating the risk and building all these worlds. Just instead of doing American myths and legends, travel the world and do world myths and legends.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what you do. You know,
that
go to Asia, go to Africa, go to Russia, go to Northern Europe, go to Southern Europe. I mean, there's so
Baba
much.
Yaga.
And they just kept rolling with this angel storyline, and it was done by season. That angel storyline should have been stopped at season 7 and kill off all the angels and then go off to Europe.
Sure, go to Europe. Let's go. Let's all go to Europe, guys. We're gonna do a show in Europe
the
someday.
final countdown going through my head. Thank you very much.
Go to Great Britain and East and Western Europe and do the Druids.
Oh yeah,
sure.
There was just
Druids
innumerable storylines they could have done. They kept sticking with the damn angels.
Start delving into that. Yeah, that could have been. Yeah,
could have been very
really
cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's an example of, you know, stick with the dancer that brought you to the dance. You know, I mean, the fan base was with them those first 3 to 5 seasons, that original fan base. And then people I started talking to were like, I can't deal with it anymore. Too much with the angel soap opera. I was like,
they should have killed Castiel off a long time ago.
Right?
He was boring as hell.
I got old. Okay, so now that we've segued into pop culture, we're in that ditch now. We're just rolling along. So we might as well talk about what we had planned to talk about, which was Marvel movies versus DC movies. And I want to set the table first and say, you know, we can talk about the metrics used to measure their success. We can talk about box office, or we can just talk about our personal taste and what resonates with us. It's up to you guys. There's no hard and fast rules to this. Barb and I talked a little bit before the show about it, and I felt she made a good point. And being the accounting person for Silverline, this is a good way to look at it. Return on investment is a really good metric because, say, if you put so much money into a stock, for example, and it yields 1,000%, you're going to be running around the rooftops crowing about that stock, right? If you'd invested in Amazon in 1997, you'd be on an island right now with Peter Jackson and Elon Musk and just hanging out. So, point being,
I'd find better people.
Yeah, well, probably so. I could too. So if we're talking just pure return on investment, I'll just throw out some of the titles, and this should get the discussion rolling here. The biggest return on investment with comic book genre film, believe it or not, is DC's Joker movie, which the production budget was $55 million, and it made $1 billion worldwide. So you look at that and you go, okay, just ROI, you know, personal taste aside, just investing the money and getting a big return. That tells you that right there, character studies rather than snapping your fingers and the world disappears kind of stuff. You know, yeah, fireworks are great, but, you know, good writing and good character studies are great too. Along the lines of more comedy, in this case, raunchy comedy, Marvel's Deadpool cost $58 million to make, and it made $800 million worldwide. So, again, quirkiness can sometimes send it over the top. The third one really stunned me. Venom, of all things, $116 million to make. It made way over $800 million for Marvel. Sadly, the only DC movie in the group is Aquaman, which cost $160 million and made $1.1 billion. Okay.
Well, Jason Momoa.
Yeah, there you go. You know, so the beefcake aspect from Barb's point of view there. But here we go. So Avengers Endgame and Infinity War are the predictable champs worldwide, bringing in, like, I don't know, just crazy, like $5 billion worldwide, and they each cost. Infinity War was $300 million, and Endgame was $400
ROI
million.
on that, even though they made more. Worldwide, the ROI on that was less.
Yeah, because the investment was so much. Same thing with Avengers: Black Panther. So all that being said, just like you guys pick one of the genre films from the big two adaptations, and talk a little bit about either your connection, whether it was positive or negative, and why you think maybe the studio should do more like this or do less like this. And I'm going to start with Barb. Go.
Well, I'm going to talk about Disney a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
And they have both the Marvel and the Star Wars franchise.
Correct.
Yeah.
We all go to see these movies, as I call it, butts in the seat, in the theaters, and it makes a massive return on some of these movies, especially Star Wars and the Marvel movies, Avengers related movies.
Yeah.
But that's only a partial view of what Disney is actually making on these products, because then they take it to Disney Plus, their streaming services, and their streaming services bring in millions, maybe billions of dollars. So you're not only getting it up front in the movie side of it, but then you're turning around and bringing in money from the streaming side of it too. And I would like to see the metrics of worldwide movie ticket sales, and then see the metrics for the streaming services. So,
what about you personally, though? Yeah, it is. But just connecting with you as the woman here in the group, like which studio connects with you more, and what content
Marvel.
would you like to see more of? Okay,
Marvel connects with me more, and this is why.
The hunkiest dudes.
They all have good-looking beefcake, which yay!
Yeah,
I'm all over that.
I hear you.
Like white on rice. However, I not only do not like the dark atmosphere of DC movies, because I mean, let's face it, I just turned 63 a couple of days ago, and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and so I'm always squinting, like, turn up the light. Like the old woman that I am. I can't see what's going on. And
I'm with you.
Somebody once told me that they do that because it's cheaper on the CGI. They don't have to fill in as many details in the background.
Yeah, it hides the scenes in CGI.
Yeah, but it's irritating as hell. And the other thing is that I am a kind of an old-fashioned girl where I would like a happy ending. I didn't get it in Endgame. But the Marvel movies seem a little bit more upbeat than the DC movies are so grim and dark.
Twilight grim, maybe?
Yeah, and did I mention dark? Turn up the lights!
Turn up the lights! So you'd say go brighter. If DC wanted to capture your demographic, go a little brighter. Stick with the beefcake like they have with Jason Momoa, and maybe go a little lighter in tone, because didn't you think Aquaman sort of adopted a little bit more of the Marvel approach?
Yes. I really liked Aquaman. It was brighter. I thought Jason Momoa knocked it out of the park as a non-blonde Aquaman, getting away from the blonde Aryan type of look that's so popular with comics. And actually going more native, which I thought was fantastic.
Well, it's more appropriate, definitely.
I thought so.
For the character. Much more appropriate.
Absolutely, I thought so. And I'm not opposed to throwing in the good-looking gals, too. I mean, I have a husband, right? So we go to these movies, and he goes to look at the cheesecake, and I go to look at the beefcake. And
there you go. Everybody's happy.
Hey, everyone's happy.
Yeah, he's like,
that's why I have a male.
Jolie, I'm there.
That's why I have a male and female lead in my comic book. So you get something for everybody. Rob, what about you, my friend? Oh yeah. Rob, what about you?
Gal Boyle.
I have not seen very many of the DC films.
Okay.
Because of what Barb's talking about, and I see how dark it is in the trailers, and I go, I have no interest in seeing this. I haven't seen. I'm going to have to see Aquaman now,
You should. I think you'll like it.
And the Wonder Woman movies, they're fantastic.
I saw the first Wonder Woman movie and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
It was
I did too.
It was a perfect film.
Yes.
And everything I've heard about the second one makes me go, oh, I hate for that great taste in my mouth from the first one to get ruined by the second one. So I'm reluctant to go see it or to rent or purchase it.
No, we just came back from the theater yesterday. We went to see Death on the Nile. We go every Tuesday to the old people matinees.
Hey, when you become a senior citizen, grab that senior citizen discount and run with it.
We go to the afternoon matinees on Tuesday, so it's $5. But the trailers, and they had a long trailer for the upcoming Batman movie. And again, I was like, What's
going on? What's happening? Yeah.
What's happening in this scene?
It's so dark.
You can see some shadows, and that's it. It was so dark.
Like the fight scenes in the first Batman film with Christian Bale, and the fight scenes. The camera is moving. Everything is blurred. You can't see what's going on. I mean, I think their whole idea was to make it look like it was it was really a mix. And I'm going, I got seasick.
Movies went through a phase with that for a while, where they were doing the jittery camera.
Kind of started with Blair Witch Project. Kind of that's when it hit mainstream.
It was but I didn't care for that.
Nope.
So riffing on what Barb said about dark.
Okay.
The original Superman with Christopher Reeve. What color was his costume?
Bright blue.
It was a bright blue.
Yeah.
What about the ones that came within the last few years?
Dark.
What color is Superman's costume?
Yeah, it's dark.
It's dirty, dark, blackish blue. There's no joy in his costume. There's no, and there was no. And from what I could see from the trailers, no joy in being Superman. I mean, this guy who could jump up and fly, he should be just. There should be some joy in that, and I didn't see that in the movie at all. So, or in the trailers for it. So, but I loved Wonder Woman because number one, it had a good story to tell, and it had an uplifting story to tell, and it was nice that there was a little cheesecake too. That was the cherry on top of the whipped cream.
Yeah. So, although I saw some nasty comments online, like she needs bigger boobs.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah,
she was beautiful.
No.
She's great.
That's just nuts anyway.
Yeah.
Then you'll love
not everybody
the
can be
comic
Linda
books from the 1990s. Go buy some of those. They all had broken backs and big boobs. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But,
so what would you tell the studios? What would you tell the studios, Rob? Do more like Wonder Woman.
Number one, tell a good story. That should be number one. Get a good story and tell it well. And number two is there should be something uplifting about the story. My favorite Marvel film is probably isn't on that ROI list. It's Captain America: First Avenger. Here's this scrawny kid who wants to go over and fight the Nazis, who gets his wish. I mean, there's some bad stuff that happens as well, but he wins against the bad guys. So there's a really uplifting story there. So
he gets a punch.
Tell
Hitler.
Something. Yeah, he did get to punch Hitler.
But, I mean, who would want that?
He got to fight the Nazis.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it was all about that finger poke that Stanley Tucci did, on his chest. This be this guy. Don't let that ever change. And it did.
Right. Yeah. He remained the Boy Scout.
That's what I want to see. I want to see well-told stories, it shot beautifully, if possible, and not so damn dark.
Good call.
Just tell a good story. Tell a good story. That comes
Good,
first.
good call. Good call. We're going to move over to John.
Oh, thank God. I'm like sitting here like a kid in class.
I could tell.
I got an answer.
You're about to jump
and
out
please,
of the screen.
Please, nobody take my answer.
Not his hands.
You know, but agreeing with Barb and Rob both, the DC films are too dark for me. Now, as we're talking Batman, because I was afraid Rob was going to go there, like, oh, with their Batman film, I'm like, no, don't go to Keaton. And he didn't, thank God. So,
No.
But the Michael Keaton Batman, when he was fighting Joker and they were like in the bell tower, there was wood, there was bell, there was metal, and it was a clear fight scene you could see. Now, Ben Affleck, I loved Ben Affleck as an actor, and then he got really popular. I disliked Ben Affleck. But then, when they brought him back as Batman, he looked the part. I think he could have done a great job. Mm-hmm. And the scene in Batman versus Superman where he smashes through and he's pulling people through the floor and like the wood, it kind of reminded me of the Keaton thing. But you couldn't see any of the action, exactly what both of you were saying. It was too dark to make out anything. It had the potential to be the best filmed Batman action sequence that I've seen. But it was too muddied and muddled, and I couldn't do anything with it. Between the two studios, it is Marvel, hands down. And it really kind of goes back to what connects to me is they're making movies the way I write comic books. Because they are, Sniper and Rook. You guys hear me talk about Sniper and Rook all the time. But if I said Jack and Rebecca, people would go, who? I find myself writing Jack, Barton, Rebecca, Page way more than Sniper and Rook. They're out of uniform more than they're in uniform. They're characters, but they're people. You connect with them. My favorite MCU movie by far is absolutely Captain America Winter Soldier. So, Rob, when you said Captain America, I'm like, no. And then you said First Avenger. I'm like, yes, I got to keep mine.
Well, that's a good movie. That's a good movie, too.
The mall scene when Natasha and Steve are walking and, she turns and kisses him. And, like, is that your first kiss, like, since 1940? And, I mean, it's just the banter and the playfulness and the characters.
I'm old.
They made that. And so, Rob, you said start with a good story. I love that. That probably would be my second answer. My first answer would be start with characters people will care about, and then put them into a great story, and you're going to be golden. On the DC side, Gal Gadot, people, multiple people have said that. I honestly think she is probably one of the most beautiful women that has ever walked the face of this earth. And she's talented and she's smart. She
can literally kick ass.
Oh yeah. I mean, she's
in the Israeli army.
Yeah.
She can kick butt.
She's the real deal.
She's the real deal.
She was Miss Real and Miss World.
Okay, Barb, give you some beefcake here. Henry Cavill, he is gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
my God. And I say that's a straight man, but I mean, seriously, Chris Evans, gorgeous. Henry Cavill, gorgeous. But you know what? I didn't care about that Clark Kent. There was nothing that made me care about that character. And I'll throw this one and I'll shut up. When we had Captain America Winter Soldier, and he met the Falcon for the first time as he's lapping him, running on your left. On your left. When we went and saw Avengers Endgame, how many of you saw it in the theater? And when the portal opened and you heard on your left.
Yep, everybody goes, yeah.
Every theater blew up because people cared. It wasn't, a blast. It was one character to another who met as civilians, and me, the characterization and caring about them as people.
Two soldiers who met.
And then they did a great job with that with Black Widow too, because you met her whole family. They do it consistently, and they do it well.
Yeah, I like that.
Good call.
Too. I like that film too.
Another vote for Marvel. Now I'm gonna go to Aaron because I know Aaron's gonna take us down a different route. Perhaps. So go for it, man.
I mean, I don't. You really want me to talk about this again? I feel like I've talked about this like so much.
You have.
Here.
Yeah.
So I like the DC movies. I don't like the Marvel movies.
Wow, simple, straightforward, boom.
That's what,
Okay, Rory, talk to us, man. What's your feeling on this?
So, in my heart of hearts, I am torn. I am very torn because all the nostalgia of the early DC Batmans, every remake, even Val Kilmer, Keaton, Clooney,
I like Val.
I thought they were all fantastic in their own right. And it was, it explored different Batmen, different parts of their personality. And it's been so thorough with the same character, the same world, while Marvel has this immediately much, much broader world, faster production, a higher production value, and they just took off. I will say Marvel salvaged themselves with like Thor Ragnarok, because after Dark World, everyone was like, I don't know about this. But they kept going. They salvaged it. And X-Men, I think, did the same thing. They kept going, and there was like an opposite bell curve of the popularity. So being the contrarian by nature, I will have to say DC Batman, because that's what I grew up on. Growing up, there weren't the Marvel movies yet.
Yep. Fair enough. I hear you. In future episodes, one of the discussions I want to have, so just to tease what we're going to talk about pop culture in the future, and possibly even next week, is if some of you have seen what can be done with the deep fake AI technology. In other words, taking an older actor, I'm not going to give away any names for those who may or may not have seen some of the more recent ones, but even Ant-Man did it. So I know everybody's seen Ant-Man. So when you take an older actor in their 70s and you can literally allow them to perform and with a younger actor doing the physical moves and so on, but the face is projected onto the younger actor and the features are so similar that the character integrity is retained. I'm telling you guys something. I think we just crossed a threshold with AI deepfake based on what I just saw in Book of Boba Fett episode 6. It's just insane good that you could literally do whoever, if the actor is still alive and willing to work with the CG folks in the studio, you could do amazing things. And where I'm going with this, because you brought up Batman being your favorite character as he is mine as well, Rory, and that is, I think Keaton is going to make a huge splash in his appearance in the upcoming Flash movie coming out in the fall. And I think people are going to start putting that together with AI deep fake and going, wait a second.
Have you seen
Michael
photos
Keaton,
of that? Leaked photos?
Yeah.
I have. Yes. It's
So
astonishing.
it really is. It's amazing. But that's just a tease. I want to wrap up here and thank everyone for joining us tonight, making it a fantastic show. All you guys were top form, top of your game. Again, I want to thank our sponsor, Daytona Beach Comic Convention. Go to Indie Planet, everybody. Pick up these books.
That's where you can get them.
Silverline. We've got to break through, man. We want to be everyone's favorite indie publisher, and then go beyond that and be everyone's favorite publisher. And so with that, I'm going to say good night. And until next time, what do we say, kids? Make mine Silverline.
Hey, I'm Alex Saviuk, and I just want to let you know, make mine Silverline.